distinguished colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and greetings from New York City. It is indeed my privilege to join and celebrate all you amazing women from across the world. I've seen your speakers list for today on this International Women's Day 2022. I commend Dr. Arjuman Zaidi, the President of Youth for Human Rights India, for her effort to organize this global dialogue and solidarity for what remains perhaps the most pervasive inequality globally, in every country, in every society, gender inequality. I'm particularly honored to join this session being hosted from my home state in Uttar Pradesh, India. And it's wonderful to be back virtually in Lucknow City. I would like to start by telling you a story from my childhood. During summer vacations each year, my family regularly traveled to my grandparents' home. I loved the travel, spending the summer with my cousins playing and reading. They had a large collection of books. However, there were rules in my grandmother's house. And one rule was that, which I recall as a young girl, of being restricted to go out and buy from the street vendor who came to the house with, local goodies like chana and all, churran and all. My male cousins could go, and I certainly could enjoy eating them if a male member or a servant went out to get them. Now, fast forward a few years. My parents did not have any mobility restrictions from me and sent me to a boarding school in Nainital because they wanted me to have a high quality education. Gender norms had changed. I was privileged, but gender biases and gender norms can be changed. Today on International Women's Day, I celebrate women and girls everywhere. I also celebrate the parents and communities who have provided the supportive environment and harnessed ideas, innovations, and women's leadership across all walks of life. I celebrate women from less privileged and marginalized minority communities who have had the courage of conviction to face the resistance and adversity. I celebrate policymakers who have taken action needed to level the playing field. You cannot win if half the team is not in the game. And I celebrate all of you, from policewomen to politicians to journalists to civil servants and others. More power to each of you in your efforts for a more equal world. Yesterday, I read the story which was trending on the internet of Bushra Mateen from an engineering college in India's Raichur district. Bushra received 16 gold medals, the highest ever in her technology university's history, and obviously among boys and girls. Stories like Bushra's help to change the stereotype narrative about women in STEM. Like you also mentioned, Dr. Zaidi, in science and technology, Muslim women, women wearing hijab, etc., etc. They need to be celebrated and amplified every day. The Rising Beyond the Ceiling initiative in India, which Dr. Zaidi is also part of, is working on spotlighting Muslim women's achievements and contributions to nation building and helping to change the stereotype narrative. But we also recognize that in too many areas, the clock on women's rights is moving backwards, to quote the Secretary General of the UN. The pandemic has kept the girls and women out of schools and workplaces. They face rising poverty and rising violence. They do the vast majority of the world's unpaid but essential care work. They are targets of violence and abuse just because of their gender. In all countries, women are underrepresented in the halls of power and the boardrooms of business. And they face multiple intersecting forms of discrimination in terms of ethnicity, disability, sex, religion, and so on. One stark example of the clock moving backwards is the female labor participation rate in India, which fell from being 26% in 2005 to 20.3% in 2019. There's not a single country in the world that has achieved gender equality and where all legal, societal, and economical barriers have been broken. We are all too familiar with these data and trends. However, statistics never tell the story. Imagine a girl. She is 12 years old. She loves school and dreams of graduation, a decent job, eventually marriage and a family. Now, with the pandemic and the rolling back, those dreams are evaporating. Her parents are jobless, and many nights she goes to bed hungry. No school and certainly no computer for virtual learning. She doesn't suspect yet that she might never return to school because in a few months she'll be married to lessen the burden at home. A year from now, pregnant. And soon she is caught in a merciless poverty trap that will jeopardize her health and hinder her productivity for the rest of her life. We know it does not have to be this way. We know that smarter and deeper investments in health and education are going to help this young girl and millions of girls like her to drive prosperity for all. We could literally fill an entire hall with documents proving that well-educated women who have equality in political participation and job market raise income for everyone and provide living standards for generations to come. That change will need to happen with our youth. Feminist movements have repeatedly pointed out that the unequal distribution of power, resources, and opportunity that perpetuates gender inequalities and vulnerability is the root cause of the problem facing the world today. And young women are at the forefront of movements calling for systemic change. The usual approach of addressing symptoms rather than causes has led to a state of perpetual crisis. There is a need to fix the systems that perpetuate inequality by redistributing power and realizing women's human rights. The continuous battle of overcoming structural barriers as well as cultural and social challenges must be fought with the new narrative that addresses the current context and constituency of young people. We cannot emerge with the clock spinning backwards on gender equality. We need to turn the clock forward on women's rights. The time is now. I close with the story I started. Gender norms can be changed, and together we can forge women's equality. I thank you.